When in the course of 3D printing, you eventually come to the point where you are going to need a filament dryer. And whether it's some old PLA you've let sit out too long, or whether you've got something like PETG, or God forbid nylon that just soaks up a lot of juice, you're going to need a filament dryer of some sort to get that filament back up to printing standards. I run into this all the time. I live in the southeastern United States, and because of that, we have a very moist climate, and I inevitably leave filament out, and the longer I leave it out, the more it degrades. At least that's my personal experience. A lot of people have different opinions about filament dryers. Some say that they've never had to dry PLA, and some obviously print with more exotic filaments like nylon, which need constant drying while you're printing them, and so they have a good understanding of why you have to dry certain filaments. So if you're the kind of maker that's already realized that they need a filament dryer, then this episode is for you. Right here behind me, I have a carbon fiber nylon print that I have already started. And basically I got mid-print and ran out of filament. I am printing a portion of my Iron Man costume that I thought would be really good in some carbon fiber nylon. And so I got a little overzealous thinking I had more filament than I did. And I ran out. So what I've got right here, this is Polymaker PA6CF by Polymaker. It's fantastic filament. This stuff is not cheap, but it prints really good on most printers if you have a all metal hot end and a hardened nozzle of some sort. There are a lot of options out there for that. But I love printing with this stuff on a printer that's been prepped for it, but unfortunately, like I said, ran out here mid-print. Again, I said this stuff's not cheap, but one way you can buy it that's a little bit cheaper per kilogram is in this 2 kilogram spool of Polymaker PA6, and as you can see, this is a big boy. Normally, this is my filament dryer. This is one I've been using for quite some time. This is an EBOS filament dryer. It has a wonderful humidity sensor on the front that tells me exactly how much humidity is inside of this unit, and it has this easy to dial in dial that goes everything from PLA, TPU, ABS, PETG, PC, and PA, PA being the nylon. And so you just set it, you turn it on the back, and it just stays on and does the job. But as you can imagine, that is perfect for this, but not so good for this bad boy right here. So I got one of these. So the good folks at FIXDRY sent me over their filament dryer, and I am just hoping that this will fit this much larger Polymaker spool in it. I don't know for sure if it will. I mean, to be honest, the specs on the website tell me that it won't, but I'm really hoping it will. It looks like a much bigger container than what I have. This is the FIXDRY model NT1 filament dryer, and I'm going to see if this will hold the larger filament spool, or am I going to be taking my old small filament spool and respooling this again just to save a little bit of money. But let's find out. I'm going to get this thing out of the box right here. So let me pull this out of here. Here is the lid. Fantastic lid. One of the things I really like about this is there's like, what, 10 different ways to get your filament out of this spool holder. It's got 2 on the front, 2 on the back, and 6 on the top, as well as a way to let some of that heat out in a controlled manner on the top. Next up, I'm going to pull the small things out of this box. Try to, anyway. It's going to make me pull the whole thing out. Make me a liar. There we go. So it's got the manual, as well as the PTFE tube is all in here, as well as some sort of cover that I'm sure I'm going to need for assembly. All right, so let's get the base out of here. This is the last thing in the box. And we're gonna hope that this is big enough. I'm not so sure at this point. But what do we have here? We have the filament dryer. It looks really good. You can see in the box, this is the drying section. It's got kind of a heating element in the bottom. It has all of our settings and everything. Peel before use. Little Satisfying peel here. Oh yeah, that was good. Other than that, it's got a fan in the bottom, and it says that this is a 110 watt rated voltage, 100 to 240, probably auto switching because there's no switch on it. So I guess the next thing I need to do is basically see, is this new filament that I have here going to actually fit in this? So let me get this out of here. Let me show you how this comes. Comes nice box. This came from Amazon this way. I ordered this from Amazon. And say pre-sealed, nice vacuum seal on here in this like Mylar bag. And as you can see, looks really good. I'm gonna try to carefully kind of open this up. You can definitely hear that vacuum seal being broken. You can see it being broken. Let's get this out of here. Oh, that's a beautiful wind on some filaments, especially on such a giant spool. Check. Okay, so giant bag of desiccant. Check this out. Check out that wind on that spool. That is really, really cool. Again, Polymaker CA6. Shouldn't need drying out of the bag, but it will need to remain in a dryer for the duration of the print. This stuff absorbs moisture like crazy. So you actually need to not only dry it at the beginning, if it's a long print of any sort, you're going to have to keep it drying. And here comes the moment of truth. So far, so good. It is looking like it might fit. It does roll smoothly. Very nice. Now I just need to see if the lid will fit. Well, first of all, I need to see what this it's got a little plate in here. Let me see what that's for. That might be important to protect the filament or something in the bottom. Let's see, user manual. That's called a shroud. It's right here on the third page of the manual. Open the cover, install the Teflon tube in the cover, put in the filament, close the cover. Well, where's that shroud go? That's not part of the installation procedure. Recommended temperature, so for nylon it says I should be at 70 C. Oh, shroud. When you only dry the printing filament and do not print at the same time, use the shroud to prevent the hot air from blowing the printing filament directly and causing deformation. Okay, so as long as I'm printing actively, I can leave the shroud off. I wonder if it's just a good idea to leave it on anyway, because, I mean, honestly, if I'm not in a hurry and I'm going to keep it running, I honestly would rather it not blowing directly on the filament if they say that's a bad thing anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that out of here. It will go in the bottom here. You can see there's little feet here, and this just goes in here. Doesn't notch, it just notches in. Gravity will hold it in place once I get that. So that's all you need to do. We put this in here. Am I going to be lucky? Will the lid fit? Maybe. Holy crap, it wasn't supposed to, but I think it's kind of touching the top of the lid. It's not touching the sides. Not touching the sides. It does look like it's touching the lid just a little bit. So the question will be, is once I put in the PTFE tube, will that actually present a problem, or can it still mostly move freely? So let's go ahead. Okay, lid comes off. I'm going to put this in the lid. As you can see, I'm working my Ender 5 Plus here. I can't really put this in this area. If I do, then as the bed lowers, it's eventually going to crush the filament dryer, and that would be bad things. I'm a little tempted to clean out some room here on the side, or see if it maybe will fit in this area. Let's see what fits. Doesn't fit there. Could fit here. Yeah, I think maybe I might have to clean out my resin here in this area, put it back here, at least for now. Underneath the table would also be a good place to put it if I wanted to put it down there. But I think it's gonna have to go here. I think I'll just run it out the bottom here. So I'm just picking which hole I want my filament to go through. And I need to grab the filament itself. All right, so got this, got it ready. This is gonna come off of here. That is just basically gonna go through the PTFE tube and be ready to go. It's kind of tight in that PTFE tube. I don't think I like that. That's a lot of friction in the tube that it came with. So, do I have some PTFE tube that might work better? So here is, I know this is some larger diameter from cap tubes. They make different diameter, inner diameter tubing. And so I know this lighter yellow that I bought is a larger diameter. Let's see if that works better. Oh yeah, that's a lot smoother. Not only that, but their PTFE tube seems just slipperier, more lubricated. So I'm going to get rid of the one that it came with. I'm going to pop in this cap tubes PTFE. It works just fine. The outer diameter is the same. And then we make sure we get enough of the filament going out the end of the tube, and then tighten it up as I roll this down. Boom. All right, so that is it coming out the back here. I am going to do a big no-no and set this on my printer and hold it very tightly so I don't drop it. And then I just want to know, does it still pull? It does seem to. I need to pull out my PTFE a bit because it's too close to the spool. But yeah, I think my printer can pull that through. Seems to be spinning. Yeah, I'm good with that. All right, so I'm going to pull this back out a little bit so that I can pull back. I can't waste this filament. This filament's too expensive. I'm going to pull that back. The other thing I would really consider doing if I was really concerned, because of the lid, number one, I'm going to not clamp it down so hard. I've got a little bit of play here. If I wanted to, I could print or just find something to stick in here to create this little gap. Honestly, if I just create a 2mm gap of some sort, it solves the problem. I could also actually sit here and print an extension to this lid, which is probably what I'm going to end up doing, just so I feel better about this. I could print an extension to this lid that fit just on the base here, that just made it a little bit taller. So I'm loving this. This is fantastic because, again, these 2 kilogram spools, much bigger, much more economical. If I'm printing arm or if I'm printing anything big, this is the way to go without buying these other spools. So let me clean this up. I'm going to make a space over here for my new filament dryer, and I'll zoom in here, show you everything set up, and then we'll get this print going again. All right, it's all nestled in here next to the printer. Let's take a look. I haven't turned it on yet. I've only plugged it in. I'm going to turn it on. Pops up real quick, tells me the current temperature, 19°C, and the current humidity, which is 24. So I am now going to come in here. I'm going to see what this does. So I press the menu button. Now I can come in here and adjust the temperature. I know this one is 70, so I'm going to do that. And this is probably a timer of some sort, or maybe setting the time. I just set it to off. So I don't really want a timer on here. I don't like this. I run this printer for days sometimes, and I don't want it to cut off. So if that was a timer, I'm going to turn it off and set it to 0. So right now I have it set to 70°C. I need to let it get up to temperature. And as that comes up to temperature, I should be watching this percentage humidity fall. Right now it's at 34. 35-ish. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to let this come up to temp, let the humidity drop in here. I want it to usually be around 10% is what I've used in the past, and it's worked real well for me. So I'm going to get this down to 10%, get it up to 70°C, and then I'm going to come back and we'll load up the machine. All right, so I've given this, I think, almost 45 minutes or so to heat up and to lower the humidity inside of here, and I'm at 68°C at 13% humidity, and it's about 2 a.m. here, so I need to get this print going, and as long as I don't have any popping and wheezing of this print, I'm going to go ahead and go with what I have. I have made some changes to the slicer settings of the original that I was printing here, just because I wanted to get a better quality print. So I think this is going to be a lot better than what I was showing earlier. So again, 68°C, and 13% humidity. I also learned on here, if you want it to run indefinitely, meaning you don't want a timer to run, if you set it to anything above 48 hours, it should stay on. That is the limit there, where it just goes into infinite mode. Anything less than that, and it will run a countdown timer and then turn off when that's done. So don't set it to 0, otherwise it won't heat up or do anything. So what I'm going to do right now, I think it's ready to go. I'm I'm going to go ahead and get my printer all set up here, start this print. I forgot how long that this print will last, but let's do a time lapse, see how this turns out, and I will see you on the flip side of this print. All right, so the first part printed overnight and the proof is in the print. Let's go ahead and get this off the bed, take a look at how it did. Comes off pretty easily. Let's see, supports also coming off pretty well. The little bit of a print problem on the bottom that I actually already figured out what was causing it, but I didn't reprint it just for the problem that I saw. But overall, the quality on this print is very, very good. And see, the surface quality on this print looks very, very good. This is actually a butt piece that I printed for the Iron Man suit, and super strong. The only problem you'll notice on here is there is a there's a slight cut, a misprint right here. I actually think I know what that was. I accidentally had adaptive layers turned on, and I think trying to extrude this carbon fiber nylon in too small of a bead is definitely a problem. So for the next print, I'm going to make sure that I have that adaptive layer height turned off so that I get a good solid 0.2 layer height. I'm also over extruding this a little bit on purpose because it seems to produce a better finish. This is printing with a 0.6 millimeter nozzle. I do believe it's either a aluminum nozzle or it is a hardened nozzle. I don't remember which one I have on here. But that is from Performance 3D, and so far it is doing great. Again, happy with this print, everything except for the bottom. So one last look here at the FIXDRY NT1. As you can see, it did not turn off at all during the night. It is still hot. It still says 48 hours on here. We're at 69 degrees, so it didn't get quite up to 70 degrees. I noticed when I got up this morning, it was at like 67. The garage at this point, I think, is around the 20C or slightly under level, and so it may have a little bit of a problem reaching that 70. I think that that is a peak temperature, and being that it's winter, it didn't quite get there, but we are still here around that 10% humidity that I was looking for. When I got up, it was at 13. Now we're at 12. So it's doing really good at keeping this chamber dry and keeping this nylon good and ready to print throughout the printing process. And as I showed, the result of the printing, that speaks for itself, and overall the print printed well, and I'm really happy with this FIXDRY box and how well it holds this large spool of filament from Polymaker. All right, and one last print before we wrap this up. All right, the final print is done. Let's take a look at this real quick. Came off really clean, real easy. Check out the finish there. It looks fantastic. Overall, the entire finish looks really good. I fixed any of the layer line problems I was having with some slicer settings, and you can see my seam. I put the seam here on the back so that it wouldn't have any problems with showing up on any of the other surfaces. And so this is the outside surface, and this thing's practically ready to go. I could do some sanding on it. I could paint it if I wanted to. The supports usually come right off of this carbon fiber pretty easily. Yeah, see, look at this. Yeah, no problem whatsoever. All the supports off. And there it is, finished piece. And carbon fiber, ridiculously strong. It's carbon fiber nylon. Would not break under any circumstances, any normal circumstances. So you can wear this to a con, not have to worry about it breaking or getting chipped or hit or anything. You might have to worry about your paint, but that is perfectly normal. So I'm really happy with this, and this is ready for cosplay testing. So again, this was a quick video. I wanted to go over how I print carbon fiber nylon, and with the help of my new FIXDRY NT1, I was able to dry this gigantic 2-kilogram spool of Polymaker Polymide PA6 CF filament, and it made the entire process really easy. Again, just barely too big for this, but just propping it up a little bit fixes the problem. Like I said, I might make a little bit of a gap filler that I can print that will go all the way around that filament dryer, and then it will fit perfectly without worrying about anything. But anyway, again, thanks to FIXDRY for providing this filament dryer. It has been perfect for my needs. Like I mentioned before, the only thing I noticed is it doesn't quite get up to that 70°C temperature in a cold room. And it does take a little while to get down to the proper percentage, but I think that that's pretty normal. It's kind of a slow to get up to temperature, slow to dry out, but it really does keep it dry, keep it extremely nice and printable. So overall, I'm really happy with it for the price, which is, I think, around $100. I'll put it here on the screen, of course, which is, I think, about $100. I don't think that you can get a better filament dryer for the money, and trust me, I've looked. So I'm really happy with this one. If you have any suggestions for filament drying systems, please leave them in the comments below. Let me know what you thought about this video. Let me know if you enjoy this kind of content. Again, I appreciate all the support here. Check out my Patreon. I'm Chris. This is Kersey Fabrications, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.